What do you think we understand about one another that others do not?
I think, we're both, African-American people wearing this blue uniform, and so I think that we know what it feels like to be a Black person in America.
Yeah.
And so we bring that to our work, and especially as chiefs, knowing that dynamic and getting other people to understand that dynamic and bring it into departments that historically haven't had a lot of that perspective. I think it's something that we share.
Pretty spot on.
How do you think the recent calls to defund the police have affected me differently than you, and why?
Obviously we've had two totally different experiences when it comes to the call for defund the police. Having spoken with you, I understand some of the challenges you're facing at your department with regards to potential layoffs or cutting of resources so that you still have to deal with the crime trends here in your city, but then also have the staffing resources or lack thereof to deal with the exact same crime trends. So it doesn't balance out. A little different for me in that I work in a bedroom community, pretty decent sized medium income household, and it's very strong support for the police. And there wasn't a call, not from our policymakers or our residents, to defund the police at all. As a matter of fact, they said we need to have more police officers.
It was interesting during our trip to the Capitol. And I think I commented on how people were so friendly even up in Sacramento, waving and stuff. And you're like, that's how it is in my community.
Right.
People bringing in food and other things. Yeah. And I'm having to tell people, hold on, we have too much where we don't get that. In very small, few and far between doses. But a lot of us also have worked really hard to try to rebuild that trust. And it just doesn't seem like we can ever get over the hump.
Yeah. That history is hard to get over. You're absolutely right about that. I think about some of the young people that I'd engaged with in the previous community. Young people who actually never had any experience with the law, right? But their uncles and their grandfathers and their dads or moms told them, hey, here's what I dealt with, here's what we're going through, and you don't be friends with the police. You are not to be friends with the police. And I'm wondering, how do you instill that in a child?
Right.
And so it becomes this generational disconnect, and then that trust carries on. Yeah. So we've got to keep working at it.
I'm just like, how long are we going to work on it? Are we ever going to get over that hump? How do you feel we experience our positions as police chiefs differently, and why?
Well, I think that goes back to the last question. I think we bring a perspective as being African Americans, raising African American children, understanding the struggles, and we had that conversation about the talk. I had that with my son when he started driving. I said, I need you to make sure you're paying attention to the road, that you're following the rules, because the fact is you're a young man, and it's important that you understand and respect the law, first and foremost. But at the same time, I want you to be safe. And so I had that talk with him. I said, because I want to make sure you always make it home, and not because you didn't understand what the situation is. I want to have this talk with you so you understand, if faced with this situation, this is how you're supposed to behave. This is how you get home every night.
So it's interesting that you say that, because the conversation I had before ours was with my oldest son. And we talk about the talk, and he talked about how I didn't have that conversation with him, but you should have had the talk with me, because, I went off to college in different areas, and what if the police weren't like the police, that you work with? And so we had a pretty good discussion about that.
Fair.
Yeah.
What's the challenge you feel we both face, and how can we better help each other overcome it?
It's a good question. Our communities are so different, I feel like. But the challenge, I guess, we both face is not knowing what our folks are going to do when we're not there. And, we're held responsible. And I sat in on a couple of seminars that were given by previous African American chiefs, and it's like the one thing that keeps me up at night is not knowing and answering that phone in the middle of the night and hoping it's not an officer-involved shooting, or hoping it's not, you know, something that one of your cops has done wrong. But I think the way we overcome that challenge is that we provide, you know, the resources, we provide training, we provide the directives and the policies that keep people in line where we want to keep them. And so I think that it's important for us to continue to be innovative in what we're doing, continue to look at nationwide models to make sure that our officers are going to be doing the best job, that we provide them with everything that they need to do the right thing at all times.
Oh, excellent point. I was thinking, that's an interesting question. I don't know what to expect because every day is different.
Right.
And the best that we can do is make sure that our folks are properly prepared, and that I'm available to you and vice versa as a resource, because we are in the same profession, we do the same work. And so I may come across a challenge where I'm stumped and think, well, how would Chief French handle this? I appreciate you taking my phone call. Maybe I can shop talk it with you. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. In preparing our people the right way, good training, good strong leadership, good clear policy and directives, that helps with a lot of that unknown.
If you could go back in time to when you first joined the force, what advice would you give yourself and why?
It's a good question. Well, I would say when I first joined, and this is something I tell all my new officers when I hire them, understand the why. I started an organization that was really fast-paced, and I didn't understand the why behind a lot of the what we did. I was taught command presence. I was taught, you know, control the scene and, you know, get the job done, and really didn't fully understand the why. It wasn't a pace that was slow enough, I think, for me to really register the why. It took some time, it took some learning, some reading, and even a few stumbles for that matter. But I know we can do better. And so what I do is I urge my new officers, I talk to each of them individually, and I said, you will learn the why from our field training officers. You will learn the why from our senior officers. And that's something I didn't pick up on right away. I learned, here's how you do this work of policing. And I didn't have a really good understanding, a really good grasp on it. And so I make sure that that's a component for all new hires and my existing staff. You understand why it is that we are in this noble profession, and why it's so important to maintain that trust and build those strong relationships, and why it's so important to deposit those meaningful deposits, because something bad will happen. We'll be prepared with the what and how to react. But do we understand the why behind it?
I love that. I'm gonna steal that.
I'm
gonna steal that because you know, we get trained in this kind of militaristic way where it's just do as I say, you don't ask questions. And really, with this new generation that's coming up, they have to understand the why.
Understand, yeah. What is something you think I need to hear, and why?
I think you need to hear that you're doing a great job. I don't think that we hear that enough. You know, people expect that we're the chief and we're just going to do our jobs, and you know, but we're people too, and you know, sometimes that reassurance is good. So you're doing a great job. Well,
I'll say likewise then.
Thank you.
Because I know you have a lot that you're dealing with, and you are. You're doing a great job, and you're going to persevere. You'll continue to make your department the best, one of the best in the East Bay. So.
Thank you. Where do you find hope?
Easy, in my family. I fall back to my family. When it's all said and done, I couldn't be where I am without my family, without faith, without a belief system that tells me there is good out there. If you believe, I like to think I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I don't think about the negatives. I don't think about the challenges. I mean, I see them and I figure I have to overcome them, but I look for opportunities, any opportunity I can. And my family is actually the foundation of that. Because I've not always been in the position where I can provide for my family.
Yeah, I think family is the biggest part for me too, and just knowing that I'm doing something, hopefully that's going to make a difference for my kids' generations. So, yeah, that's where hope is.